Black History Month you find
ridiculous.
Why?
You're going to relegate my history to a month?
Oh, come on.
What do you do with yours? Which month is White History Month? No, well, come on, tell me.
Well, I'm Jewish.
Okay, which month is Jewish History Month?
There isn't one.
Oh, why not?
Yeah.
Do you want one?
No.
I don't either. I don't want a Black History Month. Black history is American history.
How are we going to get rid of racism?
Stop talking about it. I'm going to stop calling you a white man.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you to stop calling me a black man.
What is going on, everyone's? We are here and we are back with another episode of
Is My Point Valid?
Yes, indeed. I am yours truly, Brandon D.
And I am Camille A. Stalker.
And like we always do at this time, I said that was a little slurred out, wasn't it? Ooh, that sounded ugly. But anyway, like we always do at this time, we like to say thank you to everybody who continues to rock with us. We appreciate everyone. If this is your first time on our channel, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff, because it helps us grow and we really appreciate it. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into this episode. And the topic for today is going to be
Black History Month is pointless.
Yes. I think so. And before we get into that, I want to address the fact that when I was younger, I always thought that Black History Month was given to us by them.
Who's them? Y'all be talking about them.
Them, quote unquote them. But yeah. But I always thought that the white man looked at the calendar and saw the smallest month and was like, yeah, we're going to give them Negroes this because we don't really want to give them this, but we're going to give them that. So, in reality, that was false. Like most things black people think are false. We have been led astray, and it's time to come back to home base because the truth of the matter is us did it to us. The whole Black History Month, first off, started as a week.
Yes.
And it was started by a black man by the name of Carter G. Woodson. Mm-hmm. You want to tell him a little bit about Carter G. Woodson?
What's about him? He was a Negro who was born in February, and he really liked that President Lincoln was born in February. And guess who else was born in February? George Washington was born in February. So because Frederick Douglass.
Yes, Frederick Douglass.
Because they were born in February, he felt like, hey, this is the month where we should celebrate blackness. Now, why would you say, well, Abraham Lincoln, George Washington? Well, Abraham Lincoln, because of the Emancipation Proclamation, 1865. That was to introduce the freeing of the slaves from, under slavery.
Yeah.
Right. Did I get it right?
I think so.
Did I hit it?
You hit that one. But yeah. So it was started by us, originally a week, and later on was recognized by President Gerald Ford in 1976, and it became a month.
Yeah.
So
even before, during that week, that like at churches and stuff, they would celebrate this. And so it would be like, it was just not even people, but just celebrating, the blackness. And so one of the things that was done was they would sing I'm gonna say the Negro National Anthem. That is what it is called, but it was a poem before it was the song. So Lift Every Voice and Sing. This was performed in churches. This was performed in all black schools. This is what black people did. So yeah, that is history. You can't take it away with that. That's what was done.
And the whole reason that we say that Black History Month is pointless is because, like you just said, it's history.
Yeah, absolutely.
American history.
Mm-hmm.
All history that happened in America or that deals with Americans is
Right.
American history.
Absolutely.
So no matter if you're white, black, you're Chinese American, Asian American, whatever it is.
Because somehow, some way, whatever culture has in history, it applies to history. Now, everybody's not going to know the history, right? So there's this argument that everybody knows white history, but that's not really a thing. It's just history that was documented, because America is America is still fairly new if we look at, still learning things and everything. So because this one culture is doing things, having their songs, there's people who are creating things, there's different churches, there was, there was a struggle of slavery and trying to come, like, those things do matter, but it didn't affect all cultures. Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like, it does.
It's almost crazy to think that white history, it wouldn't be white history,
right?
Because black people were not educated at these times. They weren't able to spread the knowledge of their people or whatever it is. So of course,
right,
those were the people who were telling the history,
right? Yes. And then there's also the argument that he started out saying that they were not documenting certain histories or whatever, but it was documented. If we go back to Christopher Columbus, and a lot of people don't read his writings, you can go find his journals and you can read them. You can read a lot of Thomas Jefferson's work. You can read George Washington's work. Like, you can go find these things. They're on the Internet Archives, and you can go read these things and see, whether what they felt about black people or whatever the case may be. So they were writing these things. And so, to your point, black Negroes during that time, they weren't writing anything. They were storytelling. And so what happens with storytelling? Eventually, it
gets diluted.
Right. So, the game telephone.
Yeah.
So you say something, but
by
eventually,
the last person, that's a whole different story.
And by the end of the time, it's, hey, we built this. This was us. We did this. They brought us here, and
That's
built
what we
that.
came up
Exactly.
with.
Yeah.
On the backs of blacks.
Right.
That's the story that we ended up with.
Yeah.
That's not the story that should be told.
Exactly.
That's not reality.
Everybody had a hand in it.
Everybody.
Yeah.
This is everyone. America, like they say, it's a melting pot of people from everywhere.
But people don't call it a melting pot. I noticed that a lot of people don't call it a melting pot
they don't
anymore.
Want to.
Right.
They want the credit for it.
Right.
Yeah.
This was us. But I'm thinking America is a melting pot. This is a place where I will say the founding fathers said, okay, yeah, like this is
we need
your
to change
home.
the perception of them and us. Them needs to be foreigners, like overseas, like different countries. Us needs to be Americans. This whole black white stuff is going to continue, like my boy Morgan Freeman says. If we continue to talk about these things, continue to cry about these things, it's going to forever be an issue.
Oh, and it's never gonna.
It's never gonna go away.
No, it's not gonna go away.
It's never gonna subside. It's never gonna die down because we keep it on Front Street. And the media's job is to keep these things on Front Street. The politician's job is to keep it on Front Street. And it's both sides. Don't get it twisted. We talk a lot about the Democrats, but it's both sides of things. And I want that to be very clear. Like my girl Kamala Harris say, let's be clear. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, so that, and that's what it is. So when we look at what Carter G. Woodson created, it was created to showcase, okay, we are celebrating
the accomplishments of black people.
So I think and then you had in that time period, people were dressing up, looking dapper. They were educated. They valued education. Right. They valued. There were morals. There were families that came together. There were Sunday dinner meals, right? You went to church, you walked to church, and there was community.
It's crazy when people were being treated like savages. They still had morals.
Oh, Oh,
in a time today
when there's so much freedom.
So much freedom. And we are just
all over the place. We don't come together and eat. We can't walk to church because churches are big, and these mega churches and stuff. You have to drive like 30 minutes to get to your home church. Families are strained because media is also saying, hey, if this person voted for that person, you don't want to be around that person.
And we foolishly believe these things. We listen to these things, soak up this information, and we just run with it.
Like it's law. That's not a law. Like, because you need, at the end of the day, we were created to need one another, not to be separate from one another, but to need one another. And in the 1920s, even in the 1900s, even the 1960s, because you'll say, well, that was when Martin Luther King Jr. and them were fighting for civil rights. Yeah, civil rights. I'm on the fence about that because I know some things that were going to transpire that we wouldn't have needed civil rights, that everything was going to pan out the way
we want should. Things now.
Right. The way it should have. But that created more segregation. It was this forced integration, but it created this separation from one another for all this chaos that we see today, where it is, well, in February, where you have people saying, you gave me the shortest month. So I'm going to take these 28 or 29 days, whichever, whenever it's a leap year, I'm going to take these days and I'm going to learn this person every day. I'm going to post something. But if it's that important to you, wouldn't you want...
There's a lot of other days.
There are a lot of other days. And wouldn't you want your child to know, like, where in history that fit in? Like, that's how I work with history. Once upon a time,
don't give me bits and pieces. Don't bird feed me.
Right. Once upon a time, I was given just black. But now there's a timeline to it. Where does this go? Oh, this was happening.
There's a relevancy to history.
What was happening during this time? Like right now, just as an example, we are going into the Renaissance era. So in my mind, I never thought about this. So there's 1492. There's Christopher Columbus. Then I'm going to use this. The 1619, which they say the first slaves came here to the Americas. That is the Renaissance era. So there was it's an overlapping
and nobody is connecting the two. Just like I had no idea that World War II had anything to do with Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor. Yeah.
I had no clue. I knew about the two things, but I had no idea that they were connected.
Yep.
Because we are so busy giving this bits and pieces of history, we don't understand how it worked in succession.
Yep. And that's why I think that this is detrimental to Black people, because you're solely learning, like, okay, another example. I see a lot of people learning about Mansa Musa. And Mansa Musa is, he was an African leader from Mali, but he was the richest man. But people always like, because he was African, because he was from Africa, right? He was the richest man. But they leave out, he was a Muslim. They leave out that, guess what he owned in order to gain this? Slave trade. So you get what I'm saying? Like we
leaving out things, and it's almost intentional.
Because we want to look good. What is the point of teaching your children about Mansa Musa? Well, he was the richest man. Well, you have to understand what he was doing.
There are some things that happened before he got to that point.
And so you'll tell the same. And so then you'll take Mansa Musa, but then you'll tell your child about George Washington, right? The first president of the United States. Well, he was a slave owner. Well, so was Mansa Musa, right? So I can't think of the other guy. So was one of the first slaves who came here.
That boy turned around and seen the benefit. And
so he was one. He was the one who went to, I can't think of, Anthony Johnson. He's the one who went to the courts in order to say, hey.
He was from somewhere in the Caribbean or something like that.
I studied him too, and I do not remember. We had did a whole thing about
we talked about him on the show too. Yeah.
But so my point to that is we want to showcase accolades, but we don't want to tell the truth. And that's kind of what bothers me about Black History Month.
So we either tell the downside of it.
Yes.
We always tell either the victim side of
Yep.
it, or we tell the
And
what you want to call it.
you tell the lie. I mean, it's a lie. If you're not being truthful, it's a lie. But you want to tell the fabrication of it. You want this person to look good. You fabricate it. And so it's like, hey, this person was this and this and this. But what is the undertone of that? Because we even get that with, Martin Luther King Jr. We get that with W.E.B. Du Bois.
We'll overlook character for accolades.
There you go. That's exactly what happens. Because this person did this great
That's
thing.
how we feel for Diddy.
Oh.
That's how we feel for Oprah.
Oh.
That's how we feel for Tyler Perry.
That's how we feel for Barack Obama.
Michelle
Obama.
All of them.
Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Blackness over.
And they know these things. They smart enough to know how you operate because they are one of us. Or I guess.
Yes.
So they know how we operate. So they know what to do and what to say to get our doggone wheels are spinning.
And that's
to
so
put the
sad.
battery in our back.
That's so sad that you say that, because that means they know that we don't read. That we'll read a headline and not dive deeper into what the article says.
Y'all know the saying, if you don't want black people to know something,
put it in the book.
Put it in the book.
That you'll go on TikTok to get your information.
Mm-hmm.
You'll go watch these docs.
So you'll question me about my sources, but give me sources that are from Instagram.
Not KHOU.
And KHOU.
KHOU.
Stands for Houston. Yeah. This is what we're dealing with on the regular. Straight up.
It's so interesting. So when we argue that Black History Month is pointless, we're not arguing that you should not know the history. That's never been my thing. My
you
thing
should
is dive
you should
deeper.
love it enough to talk about it on a regular basis and teach your children about these things, and stop waiting on somebody else and then crying when those people don't have the will or the want to tell your side of history.
Yeah.
They're giving it how, first off, we know a school system is going to give whatever they give. They have their way of doing things. So if you know that, why would you expect them to deviate from that? And why would you not want your children to know the history taught from you, by you?
Because that's hard. And I think it's hard because when you don't know,
it's hard to teach something you don't know.
And when
impossible.
And when you don't want to, right? Or you think that it's not your job.
Yeah.
You are the teacher. This is your job. Teach my children this. And this is why there's this big uproar where they're taking Black history out, or they're not even teaching Black history at my child's school. Well, I don't think that should be the main focus anyhow. If we're in Texas history, I should not just stop the month of February and be like, we're going to focus on
We're
that.
going to stop everything in his Black history.
There was no way that I was going to stop doing my Middle Ages unit study to focus. There's no way that I was going to do that. There was no way that I was going to mess up and say, well, and that would teach my children. Well, every month we have to do this.
Stop everything.
And the crazy thing about it is they were learning Black history in every songs I was playing. I'd have, I would tell history.
World War II, you got the doggone Tuskegee Airmen. Every war we were a part of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
All the way up to today.
Yes.
I don't understand why we have to just talk about one single piece of things. And if it's that important, like you said, if it's that important to us, why are we waiting for 28 days to do this? Why are we in February 1st, we're going to go buy all these things, and we posting all these things, and we didn't hear anything about you about Black History. We didn't hear anything from you about Black History throughout the month or throughout the year. But we focus 28 days that was given to us by us.
And Super Bowl participates in it. They want this. Yeah, that, like, think about it. When they sing the Lift Every Voice and Sing. Then
I never put that together. It is in February. It's February.
Yes, it's a catered to Black people type thing. Now let's look at the Houston Rodeo. You ever notice it's the Black Day? It's the Black
March
Day,
3rd.
but they do March 3rd because the rodeo doesn't come. Well, rodeo does come at the end of February, but they make sure that Black people are recognized during that time. There's a Tejano night, right? So, but the rodeo, I think it's Tejano anyhow, but that's Texas. But yeah, it's a here is your night. And
then Bun B done turned it into a rap off.
Well, then let's look at what Jay-Z has did to the NFL.
Turn it up.
You know, so it's not, for me, it seems like it's just hey, we want recognition.
I want to be recognized by the world.
Right. And I don't think it gives people a fair chance, like a literal fair chance. We should be having all types of genres at the Super Bowl. Of course, there's all types of genres at the rodeo, but it's country, focus on country, right? And so, but I think it is this thing.
But the NFL is not a rap.
I know.
Doggone
and I know this
entity.
But then then people don't see that as a stereotype, but it is a stereotype. And they stereotype, oh, well, Black people will want this, or what is it? Black people play football or whatever it is that Black people need to do this thing. And look, I don't want to be a stereotype, but that's what we make ourselves. We agree with it, right? We agree with
it's
with
in
these
the Black
things.
man's head.
It's in the Black man's mind.
Black mind.
Hilarious. Too funny. So that we create these stereotypes and then we say, well, you're making me a stereotype. I think we've created these stereotypes for ourselves because
then we act them out.
Yeah.
We literally create them ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Act them out.
Yep.
Get mad at people when they talk about it.
And
I don't understand.
And where did you get this from? I think it comes from people like Martin Luther King Jr. I think it comes from people like Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, all those. What are they? Activists who were like,
casket chasers.
We are Black people. We have to be this way. But I don't see.
They activate us.
And let me say this: I don't see white people going out saying we are white people. We have to be this way. And if you tell me the Ku Klux Klan,
you listen to me because I'm white.
I'm a jump through the screen and get you because there's really not any. These people really aren't bothered about us the way that.
We bothered about them not being bothered about us.
We put a lot more energy into saying, into trying to be so different, into trying to have everything on our own that we really lose focus and really think that these people care, and they don't. And
Black man's mind.
And it continues to go down. So I'd rather not have Black History Month. I'd rather history just go. I'd rather that these school districts fix the schools and have it fair, have fairness all across.
We want DEI in Black history.
That mean?
I don't know.
I'm confused.
No, it need to be taught. I think the Black history needs to be taught in regular history all together.
Because it was
it's all
like
together.
Okay, when I was going to school, right, and we get to the point in history where you start talking about slavery, and mind you, I'm the only Black girl in the class. Everybody look at me. I'm like, I don't know why y'all looking at me.
You a slave.
I ain't no slave. I don't know nobody. So everybody would look at me, but I never felt like they're being racist or anything. I was just like, well, dang, I am the only Black girl, but I didn't I don't know nothing about this. I'm
In
learning it.
2025, it'd have been racist.
I'm learning it just like you are. I
Straight
don't know. You know, I have no idea. So I think it's pointless. I think children should go in learning history. Well, we need to get this history correct anyhow. I think that we should be unbiased when we teach history. We should not say, well, our race is greater than, we're all one race. Our culture is greater than this culture because we did this and this and this and this. Like, all these parts had to work in order. We could say, well, these authors are the greats, Toni Morrison, Maya Angelou. Well, you know, there's like William Shakespeare, right? You know, there's like, well, how did and then if you study William Shakespeare, you study, dang, I can't think of anybody else. I'm just going with William right now because he's on my mind. If you want to be great, I think you look at the greats. So it had to, you know, or there was this other guy we read too, but it's very interesting that we focus solely on ourselves and not as a community, and that we just want to be singled out. And you take a month to say, hey, 28 days, here goes 28 people. And then you forget about them people, and then you don't think about them anymore. And
that's why we can't remember. That's why we got to talk about the same people every February.
I also think
we forgot
that when you talk about, if you are a Black person, a Negro, I think you should tell your children about your family history, because I think that is very important. I think you should tell your child,
because you fall in history too.
Right. That's how I look. I tell my girls stories about me and my siblings, me and their grandpa, me and their grandmother, my grandmother. Like, I tell stories. When we used to do this, I would tell them, because I need them to understand, like, this is what it was like. And I pray that when they go see their grandmothers and stuff and they grow up, that they're able to tell their children, well, I used to do this, or I did this with my mommy, and my mommy would do this. Like, that's history. So you don't have to just take a person who has done something that you feel is great in the world, because guess what? I think what I'm doing is great.
I think so too.
So that's history, period. I'm not going to put Black history, whatever. I think that's history. And I come from a bloodline of history. Like, I think there are some amazing things that have happened in my family. And I think that's more important for me to tell, or to write down, or to have instilled in my children, than for them knowing Martin Luther King Jr. or W.E.B. or, you know, Carter G. Woodson. I think that's more important. So I'm going to teach that.
Straight up. And like we said, if it's that important, teach it all the time. All the time. But don't be worried about 28 days. We need to be worried about 365 days.
You gotta have it. You gotta have it.
Straight up.
Because it's our month.
Because there's a lot of Black history out there.
There's a lot of it. But it's history. And it don't fit in 28 days. But it could fit in 365 if you just placed it where it goes. But and let it be unbiased. Like, practice being truthful about what is happening.
Practice that now in the mirror. Tell yourself the truth.
It's hard.
It's hard.
But it
can be done. But thank you once again to everybody who continues to show up for us. We're gonna be back next week with another hot one. And like always, it's love, peace, and soul.
Bye.
Like Soul Train, baby.